بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new episode of Ask Zad, coming to you live from Zad Studios here in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. We will be receiving your calls. Feel free to call, and the numbers will be displayed at the bottom of your screens. Meanwhile, we have a few questions that came through the emails. Dale says, I was on a Muslim environment and I was talking to a lot of Muslims and being introduced to Islam. And it gives me interest to know more about it. But it does not give me the chills to revert to Islam. I just don't know why. Maybe because I hate religions after all, because it separates races. I've watched some of Dr. Zakir Naik's videos. I agree on some points, but then still it does not convince me. So I need some help. I feel like I'm lost. Dale, my friend, it is said that you can lead a horse to the river, but you cannot force it to drink. Our job is only to show you the way, to show you the path. Guidance is in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal. If Allah knows that you're sincere and that you are willing to submit your will once you accept and acknowledge the truth, Allah will guide you. But if you are not ready, or if you're not willing, then no matter what people do, you will not accept Islam. If you look around you, you will find tens of thousands of people accepting Islam every single day. It is the largest growing religion on earth. It's needless to say that the population of the Muslims is about 1.7 billion. And in less than a decade, there will be more than a quarter of the population of the whole earth. A little bit more, a little bit less, who cares? The essence of the problem is you. Now, you don't have the chills to revert to Islam. And most likely, the things that deter you from accepting Islam, it's not the religion per se that separates people and causes racism among them. This is not the reason. You have to look deep down inside. Probably it is because it tackles a lot of your desires and the things you love. And they're pulling you down. You know deep down that they're wrong, but you love them. No one can blame you for loving them because this is human nature. If no one loved wine or booze, if no one loved women, if no one loved partying, if no one loved hoarding money from halal or from permissible or prohibited means, who cares? If no one loved these things and looked up for them, there will be no test. So if I'm not tempted, then there is no test in not doing what's prohibited because I'm not tempted. I don't have the desire to be tempted. So my friend, you have to look deep down inside. At the end of the day, when you accept Islam, the Muslims will not benefit out of it. Islam will not benefit out of it. The only person who will benefit is you. You will feel a whole world of difference in your heart when you're guided, when you know who you submit your will to. It's not your desires anymore. It's not your Satan anymore. It is the creator of the heavens and the earth. And the evidences are overwhelming. Don't look at the Muslims. Look at Islam. Look at the divine book, the Quran. Look at the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ. Even if you don't believe in God, what will you do with the Prophet? He is a human being, but his seerah, his biography, his life was out of this world. No one can be like inspiring as he was. Peace and praise of Allah be upon him. So my friend, I can't do anything for you, but to show you the way. Whether you take it or take another way, this is your choice and you will bear the consequences of that. I pray to Allah the Almighty that He guides your heart and mine and the viewers to the straight path so that we know Him as He wants us to know Him. Mihwish says, what is the procedure if one forgets to make sujood as-sahu due to some mistake or addition in prayer and has concluded his prayer but realized they forgot to make sujood as-sahu? First of all, sujood as-sahu, what does it mean? It means prostration of forgetfulness. And when is it performed? The answer is when you forget something that is mandatory in prayer, or you add something that is mandatory, which you're not supposed to add it, or you forget a pillar during prayer, but you reconcile and catch up with it, make it up in the same prayer, or you add something to the prayer that is not part of it, with the exception of sunnah. So raising the hand is a sunnah. If someone, while going to sujood, he raises his hands, he added something that is not part of the sunnah. Does he offer sujood as-sahu? The answer is no. Why? Because it's a sunnah. Going back to Mihwish questions. If a person forgot to sit for the first tashahhud, after the second rak'ah, at the end, one's supposed to sit for at-tahiyyatu lillahi was-salawatu wat-tayyibat, and then stands for the third rak'ah. A person forgot to sit and say the tashahhud and stood up for the third rak'ah, whether it's a maghrib or any other rak'ah, any other prayer. And then he realized after he stood up that he did not sit for the tashahhud. Of course, he cannot go back and sit again. Why? Because sitting is obligatory. Standing for the third rak'ah is a pillar. You do not leave a pillar for something that is obligatory. It was forgotten, continue your prayer. So the person continues his prayer. At the end, he offers the tahiyyat and the salutation upon the Prophet ﷺ. Just before salam, because he missed the first tashahhud, he is supposed to offer two prostrations of forgetfulness. What to say in them? The normal, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, or Subhana Rabbi al-A'la wa bihamdih. Nothing extra. So he finishes all of this, but before he performs the sujood, he forgets it. And he offers salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Now, Mihwish says, what is the procedure if one forgets to make sujood as-sahu? If one forgets to make sujood as-sahu, if the gap is short, so now you're sitting, you subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, ayat al-kursi, you're still sitting in your prayer position and you remember, then the gap is short. You can offer the sujood as-sahu and offer salam again, and that's it. Your prayer is valid and complete. So how do we measure this gap? By minutes. Is it 60 seconds? Is it a couple of minutes? Is it 5 minutes? It is a gap even if you spoke to the one next to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, how it's going, what's happening, chit-chatting, and then you remember, no problem, prostrate. But if you leave the masjid, or after like 15, 20 minutes, you forgot, you took a nap, you reached home, in this case, your prayer would be valid. and forgetting the sujood al-sahw or the prostration of forgetfulness, you would be exempted from it, alhamdulillah, and there's nothing for you else to do. Faizan says, what is the ruling on women wearing artificial metallic jewelry and hair clips? Because I've heard that it is not permissible to wear iron rings, etc. Now, whoever says something, it has to be backed by evidence. As for women, women have no problem in wearing whatever they wish to wear, whether it's gold, silver, iron, whether it's real or fake, whether it's diamonds or saffrons or gemstones or whatever. They can wear that without any problem. And it is a misconception among some of the countries and the communities where they prohibit women from wearing anything other than pure gold. This is baseless. You can wear any accessories that are fake, even if they look real. There's no problem in that. Wearing hair clips, we're assuming, of course, all of this is done in front of mahram, men who you are not allowed to marry for life, like your father, brother, uncle, like your father-in-law, like your son-in-law, like your nephews. All of these are mahram permanently. So you can wear this in front of them, but you cannot, of course, wear a hair clip or any jewelry, whether genuine or fake, in front of men who can marry you, because this is not permissible. This is exposing and showing your beauty, and this is prohibited. Asma says that there's a viral video about not to consume broiler chicken because they are made with the exact same formula that is used to develop pigs. And the feed that's given to them is also haram, like feed made with blood of animals, etc. What's the ruling regarding this? First of all, in Islam, we rely on certainty. We do not work with hearsay. But before we continue answering Asma's question, we have Nayab from Riyadh.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salaam alaikum.
It is very nice to speak to you. May Allah give you health and healthy life to
Ameen.
bless us all and guide us the right path.
Ameen.
Jazakallah khair. Sheikh, I want to ask you that, is there any relaxation for an aged woman to complete her iddah, or the ruling is same for her?
So,
is there any relaxation or any rules are soft or lighter than other women?
She is a widow.
Or are the same?
She is a widow.
Or the rulings means the ruling is same, or any relaxation is there?
Niyab, is she a widow or divorced?
Yes, no, she is a widow.
Okay, I will answer.
Woman, widow. Thank you, Jazakallah khair.
Wa jazaki, barakallah fikum. So Niyab is asking about the ruling of iddah for a widow who is aged, who is old. Is there any form of relaxation? First of all, iddah. This is an Islamic terminology referring to a period of time. And it is commonly used when related to a female after being separated from her husband, either due to death, divorce, filing of khul', separation, etc. And each has its terminology, its rules, etc. When it comes to a widow, a woman whose husband has died. Her iddah is one of two. And this is depending on her status, whether she's pregnant or not. If a man dies while his wife is pregnant, her iddah lasts until she gives birth. And this means that if he dies today and she's 2 months pregnant, she remains in her iddah until she gives birth after 7 months. And if she is 9 months pregnant and he dies at 5 o'clock p.m. and she gives birth at 5:15 p.m., she is out of her iddah, because her iddah was 15 minutes while she was pregnant, and now she could get married at 5:25 or 5:30, hypothetically speaking. But this is what iddah is for the pregnant woman. If she's not pregnant, it's a fixed duration, whether she is 18 years old or 80 years old. Her iddah is 4 months and 10 days, as mentioned in chapter 2, Surah Al-Baqarah. Now, having said that, what is meant by iddah? Iddah is something to express and show the status, the love, the respect, the position of the deceased to his widowed wife. So it has nothing to do with being pregnant or not, because 4 months and 10 days if she's not pregnant. So we can tell that she's not pregnant by 1 monthly cycle, which can be in a week time. But still, she has to remain 4 months and 10 days. And this is a form of worship to Allah Azza wa Jal. What does she do? Actually, what she does not do is to be asked about. Meaning, a widow must be confined to her husband's house for 4 months and 10 days, not to leave unless it is a necessity. She has to go to the courts to finish some paperwork. She has to go to the hospital to check with the doctor. She is a working woman. She has to go to her job. All of this, or all of these, are legitimate reasons. She must not wear fancy clothes that attract people to her, as she is not displaying herself for marriage. She must not wear perfumes. She must not wear makeup, among other things. So this is the same for men. Let me rephrase that. This is the same for women, whether young or old. And there is no form of relaxation in the sense that, okay, because she's 80 years old, she can go every couple of days to the beach and maybe go sightseeing. No. Well, can she, because of her age, travel to live with her son in a different country? No. This is not a necessity. This is a period of 4 months and 10 days that she must stay and be patient, and Allah Azza wa Jal will reward her for that. Are there any exceptions? Not that I know of, except if there is a necessity. And this differs, and it depends on each case scenario. So going back to Asma's question about the video that warns consumers from using or eating broiler chicken because it is fed in the same fashion as pigs and developed as in the same way. As Muslims, we do not believe these videos. If it comes from an organization that is an official organization that we trust, and they tell us about a specific company or companies that they're doing something that is haram, yes, we acknowledge. But hearsay is not sufficient. A lot of the sodas, we get emails, we get videos that it has pork components in them. a lot of the toothpastes and the soaps we use and the shampoos, that it has donkey ingredients or pork ingredients or this or that. This is all hearsay. Yes, but there is Tom, Dick, and Harry in America in halalgroup.com site that monitors food, and they said that this and this. We don't know that individual nor his group. So all of these are not acceptable. And a Muslim does not have to listen and adhere to any person that comes in and says, Akhi, the clothes you're wearing has like something najis in it. And your slippers don't have shock absorbers, so it will harm your knees and hence they're haram. What is this nonsense? It has to be scientific. It has to come from people that we trust and know in order to apply that, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Rayyan says, what's the ruling on killing mosquitoes with electric rackets or other devices that electrocute the insects? It's an issue of dispute. In some masjids, you find this box with a velvet or blue or green light in it, and every single couple of minutes you hear the electrocution, and an insect dies or something bigger, or etc. Some scholars say that this is prohibited because it is burning. And we know that without any dispute, without any doubt, that the Prophet ﷺ prohibited burning living creatures. And he told us that this is a punishment only allowed by Allah Azza wa Jal. Even when Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, gathered those who worshipped him, and he told them, don't worship me, I'm not Allah. And they kept on worshiping him, so he threw them in fire and burned them to death. And they said, this is the biggest sign that you are Allah, because no one tortures with fire except Allah, and you're torturing us. And they died in their state of shirk and kufr. Ibn Abbas, his cousin, came to him and told him that this was prohibited, and the Prophet ﷺ prohibited killing people with fire, and he regretted this. Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, regretted this because he did not know at the time, or maybe he forgot the ruling. So some scholars say that this is haram. The other type of scholars said electrocution is not burning. It is a shock that it induces and leads to the death of an individual. So it's not like putting someone under the torch and torturing him and burning him, and he's feeling the pain and the agony, etc. No, electrocution is on the spot, he's dead. And this is the most authentic opinion, that electrocuting insects in this fashion, killing them instantly, this is halal, and there's nothing wrong in that, insha'Allah. Yusuf talks about a hadith that says, if your experience in the grave is good, then what comes after will be better. And vice versa. If it's bad, then what comes after is worse. So what will happen to the people of Al-A'raf in the grave? Surely their reward or punishment would let them know what their fate is. First of all, what is the people of Al-A'raf? In chapter 7, Surah Al-A'raf is a long surah. And A'raf is an area between hell and heaven. So when the people of hell are admitted to it, and the people of heavens are admitted to it, there will be a category of people who will be standing on this mount of Al-A'raf. It's a mountain. They look at the people of hell and say, may Allah save us. And they look at the people of paradise and they say, may Allah join us with them. Scholars differed upon the definition of the people of A'raf. Some of them said that these people are the people who have good deeds and bad deeds equal. And they give examples of people who died as martyrs in the cause of Allah, but when they left for jihad, they disobeyed their parents and went, leaving them crying and refusing them to go. So they've gained Jannah because their martyrdom, and they deserve hellfire because of their disobedience to their parents. And there are other interpretations. So now Yusuf is asking about a hadith. This hadith, I will comment inshallah upon it after the break, so stay tuned.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I'm going to talk about the book Interactions of the Greatest Leader. Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu said that a man came to the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and said, O Messenger of Allah, poverty has struck me. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam sent a messenger to one of his wives to bring something for that man to eat. But she said, by the one who sent you with the truth, I only have water. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam sent to another one of his wives to bring something for the man to eat. But she said the same, until all of them said the same thing. Then Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, who will take this one as a guest in exchange for Allah's mercy? A man from the Ansar said, I will, O Messenger of Allah. So he took the man to his home and said to his wife, treat the guest of the Messenger of Allah well. She said, by Allah, we have nothing except the meal for my children. He said, get the food ready and light the lamp and put your children to sleep. If they ask for dinner, then when the guest enters, dim the lamp and make it seem as if we are eating. And when he reaches for the food to eat, then stand up to the lantern and turn it off. She got the food ready, turned the lamp on, and put the children to sleep. She then went to the lamp as if she was fixing it and turned it off. Then they pretended as they were eating, and they both went to sleep hungry. In the morning, the man from the Ansar went to Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who said, Allah has laughed, implying his acceptance to the deed from your actions last night. Then Allah revealed his saying, which means, and they give them preference over themselves, even though they were in need of that. Reported by Al-Bukhari and Muslim.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So Brother Yusuf basically was asking about a hadith. The hadith was graded by Sheikh Al-Albani to be Hasan. And the hadith talks about that the person's affair, if it were to be good in his grave, then what's after the grave on the Day of Judgment should be better, and vice versa. And this is not the general thing, because we've stated before that the torment of the grave is not related, generally speaking, to the torment of hell. And likewise, being blessed in the grave is not necessarily the same in the hereafter, though the norm is. So those, generally speaking, who will be punished in their graves would probably have more to pay for on the Day of Judgment, and those who are not punished in their graves are most likely to enjoy heaven more. But it is not related. the torment in the grave is dependent on a list of sins. If a believer is lucky enough to skip these sins and not do any of them, he will not be tormented in his grave. But that doesn't mean that on the day of judgment, when the scale is put and his good deeds and bad deeds are there, that he would not be punished for other sins not related to the sins of the grave. So it is possible that a person comes with great good deeds and he dies. In his grave, it is possible that he is punished for backbiting, for sins such as lying or sleeping over a salat. Though he has trillions of good deeds, nevertheless, the torment of the grave are for these specific sins that this individual had done. And likewise, it is a possibility that a sinful Muslim who avoided these sins would not be tormented in his grave. But when he comes on the day of judgment and the scale is brought and his good deeds and bad deeds are weighed, and he has a lot of bad deeds, that he might be punished for that if Allah does not forgive him. So I hope this answers your question, Yusuf. Humayra says, can one eat the meat of a goat or a cow that one has slaughtered as a sadaqah, or should that meat be given to the poor only? So sadaqah in English means charity, other than zakat. Zakat is a pillar of Islam, which is a fixed percentage that one gives, generally speaking, annually over the savings he has, or the merchandise that he trades in, or over the livestock, or over some specific crops. This is zakat. But we have sadaqah. Sadaqah is general. So we can give charity to Muslims and non-Muslims alike. It's considered charity. Any type of good work is charity. If I give a stray dog some water to drink, this is charity. This is sadaqah. So Humayra says, if I were to slaughter a cow or a sheep or a goat, can I eat from it? Or must I give it to the poor? First of all, if it is an expiation, if you're slaughtering a sheep as a form of expiation, you did a sin that requires that you slaughter a sheep, you cannot eat anything of it. If it is a general charity, such as vows, for example, though vows are not recommended in Islam. A person has a child that is sick, and he's so afraid, he asks Allah for cure, but then shaitan overtakes him, takes over him and says, listen, why don't you offer something to Allah Azza wa Jal so that He would cure your child? Allah doesn't need your offering. But shaitan comes, so it would be like a sort of trade, a sort of a bribe. Oh Allah, if you save my child, I'll slaughter a sheep. So this is an oath that you make. It's not recommended, but once you commit yourself to it, you must fulfill it. If I slaughter the sheep, I may not take anything off it, because this was devoted entirely for Allah Azza wa Jal. But if my son, if I had one, passes the finals in his college, and I'm so happy, and I say, I will slaughter a sheep because I'm happy for my son. Now, my intention is to slaughter. If my intention was to slaughter this sheep and call the family and friends to feast and eat from it, then I can eat from it, no problem. If my intention was to give it as a form and a token of gratitude to Allah Azza wa Jal, thanking Him, then I may not eat anything. If my intention is mixed, so sometimes I say, yes, the sheep I slaughtered to give to and distribute to the poor while eating myself from it. In this case, you can take a portion according to what you intended. But generally speaking, if it's an expiation, if it's an oath, if it is generally given for charity, and you did not make an exception, you may not touch it and you may not eat from it. Muhammad asks about the ghusl. What is the meaning of ghusl? Ghusl, it's an Islamic terminology, means to wash. And usually it is in reference to washing the whole body, bathing, that is, taking a shower. But it is divided into two types. A ritual obligatory bath, which uplifts your major impurity, such as being in the ritual major impurity after having intercourse or ejaculating, or for a woman who is or was menstruating, or after postnatal bleeding. They have to take a bath in order to pray because they are in the state of sexual or ritual impurity. And there is the normal bath that people take, such as when they go to Eid, or it is recommended, in some say it's obligatory, when they go for Friday, etc. Now, Muhammad's question is, on a Friday, if doing ghusl becomes mandatory, thus, is it permissible for us to combine these intentions together? 1, the sunnah ghusl of Friday. 2, ghusl from major impurity. 3, wudu. The answer is, if you have the major ritual impurity and you would like to perform ghusl to uplift it so that you can go and pray Friday, you may intend in this same ghusl that this is following the sunnah of performing ghusl for Friday, which is not mandatory. So now 2 in 1. And because you're uplifting the major ritual impurity, underneath it falls the minor ritual impurity, which is requiring wudu. So I do not have to perform another wudu, because by uplifting my major ritual impurity, my minor ritual impurity would be lifted or uplifted as well. Firdaus sent us a question that is a bit ambiguous, but I'm going to read it because it's already there. She says, I do dam. Dam is blood. And I understand that she is given the power of attorney to slaughter expiations, oaths, sacrifices on behalf of others. So this is what I understood from the question. I do them on people for 2 years, and now my status is such that I'm heavily in debts. So can I take money for them on people? Please tell me if there's a hadith and what the Prophet ﷺ has told. So what I understand is that she is authorized by people to slaughter on their behalf. Now she says, can I take the money instead of slaughtering because I'm in debt? And that says no. When someone authorizes you to do something on their behalf, you cannot do something else. So one tells me, slaughter a sheep as an expiation. So I go and take the money and give it to a cancer center as a donation. This is totally prohibited. This is unacceptable. And you, that is I, have to compensate that person and pay exactly the same to the cause he instructed me to do. So Firdaus, if you were told to do something with that money, you have to do it exactly there's no problem if you are in debt and you are in need to tell the people, the donors, that listen, I am in need. So can I take a portion of it, or can you give something for me because I'm deserving? But do not do something that they do not authorize you to do. Ahmed Hussein, he says, is there any authentic hadith regarding reciting Surah Yasin over someone who is on his deathbed and is approaching his end? If not, then what is prescribed in the Sunnah? Surah Yasin, the vast majority of scholars since decades and centuries ago say that it is a prescribed and recommended Sunnah. But when we listen to other scholars who beg to differ, we find that they say that this is not a Sunnah. So there is a dispute. Some say Sunnah, some say it's not Sunnah. What to do? Allah Azza wa Jal gave us the answer in the Quran. He said, whenever there is a dispute among you, refer it back to the Quran and to the Sunnah. So we go back and check the Quran, there's nothing. The surah is there, but there's nothing recommending or discouraging us from reading it. We go to the Sunnah, and all the hadiths that are listed favoring reciting it upon the dead or when people are in their dying beds, all the hadiths are weak and not authentic. So now what to do? Follow the great scholars blindly, though we know that the foundation they built their opinion upon is weak, is not authentic? Or should we refrain? Of course, the way we should act upon is to follow the Quran and the Sunnah by the understanding of the righteous predecessors of the three favored generations. And this means that we do not recite the surah upon them. And if we were to recite it, just to act upon what the scholar said, it should be done when the person is dying, when his soul is exiting and departing his body. Then it is okay, according to the majority, to recite it, because during or in the surah itself, there is mentioning of that righteous, pious person who on his dying bed said, I wish, saying to the angels, I wish that my people know what Allah has prepared for me. And this gives hope to the dying person to be like him. What to do from the Sunnah? The Sunnah is that when you are at the bed of a dying person, to do ruqyah, to give him dua, and to make sure that the last thing he says is the testimony of truth. So the Prophet says, whoever concludes his life and the last thing he said was La ilaha illallah, there's no God worthy of being worshipped except Allah, or Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, I bear witness and testify that there's no God worthy of being worshipped other than Allah. If this was the last thing he utters, then he will be sent to Jannah, to paradise with the grace of Allah. Having said that, you do not repeat until you bore him to death. No, you simply say La ilaha illallah. He says La ilaha illallah. If he remains silent for 5 hours, this is sufficient. Even if he dies, no problem, because that was the last thing he said. But if he speaks and says after a couple of hours, I'm thirsty, give me some water. You give him the water and you say La ilaha illallah, so that the last thing he says before saying anything else would be La ilaha illallah. And we have Ruslan, and she or he, I don't know, Ruslan, I'm presuming that he is a brother. He says, can you comment on the dress code that a lot of the young females wear nowadays when they adopt to wear tight jeans and tight tops with only a headscarf, and because they want the society to accept this as permissible. So he says that I've seen this dress code in the Maldives, in Malaysia, Indonesia, etc. Well, I would add to that in Egypt, in Jordan, in Morocco, in so many countries. Is this acceptable? The answer is no. This is not acceptable at all. The Prophet said in an authentic hadith, alayhi salatu wasalam, there are two types of the dwellers of hellfire that I had not seen yet. So the Prophet ﷺ is giving us a prophecy of two types of among the people in hell. These people are condemned to hell. Why? Because of what they do. And what are the characteristics of these two people, O Prophet of Allah? He told us about women who are dressed yet naked. And when they walk, they are tilted and make others tilted as well. And their hairs are worn as the camel's back. So it's like the hump of a camel. So now the Prophet ﷺ is describing to us a woman who is dressed but naked. Scholars said that these two, though seem to contradict one another, yet it is visible. A woman who wears tight clothes, leggings and tight tops, is actually dressed with such piece of cloth, yet she's naked because it shows her body structure and her curves. And likewise, a woman who is wearing a dress that is ample and loose, yet it is see-through. So she's dressed in a sense that she has a dress on, but she's actually naked because we can see everything that is underneath. These girls who wear tight jeans and they cover their hair, actually what they're doing is totally prohibited, and the only thing or the only reason they're covering their hair, not because the Quran says so or the Sunnah says so, definitely not, simply because they're lazy to make their hair up. It is so untidy, it needs a lot of fixing and washing and oiling and conditioners and shampooing, etc. And they're too lazy to do this, so they wear this headscarf, not because they fear Allah Azza wa Jal. Because a woman who does this and wears a tight shirt or a tight t-shirt or a jeans, definitely she doesn't fear Allah Azza wa Jal. She's exposing everything that Allah told her to hide and conceal. And this is a problem dominating these societies because the parents are letting go. And this is not only limited to these countries, it's happening even in the Gulf area, in the core of Muslim lands. It is happening and it's taking place, and we see it and we regret it, and we warn people of falling into this trap of Satan, but no one is willing to listen and hear with their hearts. People are neglecting Quran and Sunnah. All what they see is actors and actresses, singers, males and females, and they take them as role models. So they want to look like them, but they have a very thin string connecting them to Islam. So maybe this hair cover would be that string, but it is very vulnerable and it can be cut anytime. So they should fear Allah Azza wa Jal. Hussein says, does taking your socks or shoes off after wiping over them nullify your wudu? We know that we're supposed to wash our feet when performing ablution for prayer. But there is another way, which is after performing wudu and you wear your socks, if you nullify your wudu afterward or break it, you may perform another wudu but wipe on your socks. For a resident for 24 hours, for a traveler for 72 hours. Now he's saying that, assume I prayed Fajr and I went to the office and then Dhuhr time was due, so I wiped over my socks in wudu. And when I went to the masjid, I took off my socks. So does this break my wudu? The answer is no. Your wudu is valid. But you may not wipe on your socks if you wear them again, unless you perform a real wudu with washing your feet first. So taking off your socks does not nullify or break your wudu. Exactly like if I make wudu and I wipe over my hair, and then I go to the barber shop and I shave my head. So by losing my hair, does this mean that I've broken my wudu? No, not at all. So I think that this is all the time we have for today's program. We have a number of questions, but I'll answer them inshallah through the email. Next week, there won't be a live show as I have a tour in Dubai, inshallah, with a number of lectures in Al Manar Center. So if you're there, we hope to see you. And if not, I'll meet you, inshallah, 2 weeks from tonight in Ask Zad. So until then, I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.